Yeah, we continue Newsmakers Week 2024. It's day one. We've already talked to Tori Lavello, Bryce Drew. We continue with ASU baseball head coach Willie Bloomquist joining us in studio. Not just joining us in studio, but on a game day, Dan Bickley. Willie, thanks for coming in.
That's commitment, man.
Well,
Willie!
you guys are special, so I figured I would make this happen for you.
Love it.
Season gets underway. Year 3 at the helm of ASU baseball. You take the 2 of 3 in opening weekend against Santa Clara. Lots of runs. If you liked offense, you were probably pretty happy. But what was your synopsis of the opening weekend, Willie?
It was entertaining for the fans, and that was great, but not so much for
the manager.
for the coach and Sammy, my pitching coach. So we had we're buying stock and Tums here early on. But, no, it was a fun weekend. You know, Santa Clara is a good team. They're a regional team last year. They got everybody returning. They're older, experienced team. So we knew we were going to have our hands full with them. But, our guys battled, played hard, and put up a lot of runs, kept coming back. And it was back and forth affair with both of those Saturday and Sunday games. But, turning the page on that, we got Kansas State tonight, who's a top 25 team. And, they're not going to be easy either. So it'll be a fun one tonight.
Let's talk about expectations, because the history of ASU baseball, anybody who's been here for a while knows the history is fantastic. The big names that came through here, the successes that happened back in the 70s, and you name it. It created an unrealistic expectation among fans who want that in the current day and age all the time, and it's very, very difficult with the parity in college baseball. So your thoughts on where you're at in the evolution of where you want this program to go and how you want it to be?
Well, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's a different era. We're in a new era with NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff, and so it's very difficult to remain to get to the top first and foremost, and then sustain that for over a length of time. Where we're at, I think we're growing, we're getting better, but we still got a lot of work to do. We still need to get deeper. We still got to get better. With this ever-changing environment that we're in, landscape that we're in college sports, we have to. We're starting to figure out this NIL stuff and move forward in that department, whether you like it or not. We have to evolve there and be successful and retain our guys, and that's just, it is what it is. But I think like you said, the parity in college baseball has never been greater. The players as a whole across the board are just better. I mean, you see schools that you never heard of before, and they're knocking off top 5 teams and top 10 teams in the country. You're like, wow, I didn't know, I never heard of them. But there's good players all over out there, so anyone can beat anybody on any given day. And I think when you look at that, it makes it much more difficult to build a dynasty and keep a dynasty. So we're on the right trend, but we got work to do still.
Willie Bloomquist, the head coach of ASU baseball, our guest here on Newsmakers Week on Bickley and Marotta mornings. You touched on NIL. We talked to Bobby Hurley a lot about NIL, how it affects college basketball. We talked to Kenny Dillingham at football. Don't have a lot of information, I don't at least, on how NIL is affected college baseball. How big of a factor is it for you on a daily basis?
It certainly is. It's trickling to baseball rapidly. I think when you look at some of these schools that just have truckloads of NIL stuff, and it makes it difficult in the recruiting world. If you need a good weekend starter, I mean, you better come to the table with some serious coin if you're gonna rally the troops and try to get him on campus. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we obviously need the help with if we're going to be able to do that. If not, then you have to shift your recruiting to the younger players out of high school and give them opportunities, which is kind of what we've done here the past couple of years. We started 5 freshmen last year. This year it's our pitchers that are young that are going to get the opportunity. So, we've shifted our recruiting, not solely, but largely on the younger incoming freshmen and hey, we got to develop these kids. And then, the difficult part or the challenging part is once we develop them, we got to retain them and keep them here. So that's kind of our approach right now. And not to say we won't dabble in the portal from time to time. We certainly will. But I think for us to be sustainable for a long period of time, we got to recruit the talented high school kids and try to retain them here.
Yeah, it's weird, though, in baseball especially, because there's that minor league option for players coming out of high school or whenever they're drafted. If they want to get paid, they can go get paid in the minors. It's just kind of a weird juxtaposition of things because, if a player stays in college but then also decides, I want to get paid or I can get paid. I imagine that's a really delicate line for a head coach or a recruiting coordinator to go through.
It makes our head spin,
yeah.
Especially with the timing of the Major League Draft is after the portal closes, so you don't know who you're losing or who you're getting back, and these kids that'll kind of pull the rug out, so to speak, at the last minute and jump ship on you that you thought you were getting back. So what we have to we have to get insurance. We have to, in a sense, over-recruit and get guys just in case we lose a bunch in the draft like we did this year. We lost every arm we had, in the draft this year, which, is good for the incoming freshmen. But,
yes.
But it's like, okay, what are we gonna do now? And you lose a kid at the last minute in the portal, and you weren't thinking you were going to lose him, and now what do you do? So it makes it very, very challenging with the timing of the draft, all these factors that come into it as a head coach, and having to still remain under 11.7 scholarships, and that's a whole nother discussion. But when you have these factors, it makes it very, very challenging to where, if you had a nice pool of NIL money that you could fall back on and not have to use scholarship money in order to get a kid here, that would be great. But a lot of factors that we got to deal with.
Before the Slugfest, I read that Thomas Burns was the first true freshman to start a season opener in 18 years. Did pretty good, didn't he?
He was great. Thomas was awesome. He did as we were kind of expecting him to do. He doesn't get too high or too low. Kid that's a tough kid, hockey player, kind of in high school, so he doesn't get over emotional, and that's why I like him on Friday, because he just comes out and trusts his stuff and does his job. So he did outstanding.
In terms of expectations this year, and going back to last year, you guys were sitting pretty for a while. The end of the season got a little rough. Even with the rough ending, you were right on the doorstep of making a regional. You got left out. How much does that drive you, your staff, your returning players to get over that hump this year?
Well, I think you use it as motivation. Obviously, it was disappointing. It's still disappointing, if I'm being honest. We went down that stretch run where we had some bumps and bruises without arguably our best player, and Ryan Campos, during that with an oblique injury. So we didn't have him and we were still. It doesn't help, but every game we lost was 1 or 2 run game against Stanford and SC, who was a pretty good team last year, and so that kind of stung a little bit that we got left out. But you use it as motivation. Remind our guys to finish the job, and we're doing even drill work in the fall and the spring. Like, hey, you remember what happened? We have to focus on every little detail and get everything done right and finish the job. So, use it as motivation, use it as a stepping stone to bring the program forward, and hopefully our guys will respond to that.
I think when you took on this gig at ASU, a lot of people were very happy for a lot of obvious reasons, but it's certainly something you didn't have to do. So what you're doing is basically a labor of love. Is that still the case? And how is the process of it playing with you? How do you enjoy this the way you thought you might?
It is, and I appreciate that. It's something that, you're right, I didn't necessarily have to do, but my passion for Arizona State's always been very deep, and when this opportunity got kind of thrown at me, it was like, wow. I thought I was kind of done on the baseball field, for a significant amount of time, but when this got thrown at me with a chance to go back to ASU, where the place that I'm very passionate about, I'm like, man, that actually lights my fire and gets me nervous a little bit. So,
it's good.
It lets me know I'm still alive. And so when I took on the challenge of it, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I'm loving it. I enjoy it. It is extremely challenging, on a day-to-day basis. But like I said, I think that's what drives me to continue to keep going and try to, be good at this job and get this program hopefully to where we're sustainable year in and year out, and we're pretty good. So, like I said, we're on the right track. I think we still got a little ways to go, but I do love what I'm doing. I love it here. The fans have been great. The alumni support has been good. So I'm loving it, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, Sun Devils have a game tonight at Phoenix Muni against Kansas State, and then a 4-game series starting on Thursday against Ohio State. So a great opportunity to get out to Phoenix Muni and watch the Sun Devils. Willie, thanks so much for coming in. Good to catch up with you,
Yeah,
and
great
best of
seeing
luck.
you, Willie.
Yes, great seeing you guys. Thanks for having me. And yeah, come on out.
Go Devils.
Yes, go
That's
Devils.
right.
Let's go.
Head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, Bobby Hurley, joins us in studio as part of Newsmakers Week 2024. Bobby, thanks so much for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you
Yeah,
guys. in
who
person.
scheduled this interview after that basketball game, Bobby? Who's in charge of that?
Well, you guys have the privilege of seeing me in public for the first time since Saturday.
You've been low pro in it?
Yeah, I've been in hiding. We did serious damage control on Sunday. Usually Sunday is always my off day with the guys. After a Saturday game, it's kind of common pattern, but we all had to spend more quality time together on Sunday. Watching film and. Just getting our conditioning right again because we were not able to, unfortunately, keep up with Arizona in terms of running with them in the open court, our defense, getting back on defense. So we had to rehearse that on the practice floor some on Sunday physically.
Mid-season gassers, nothing like them.
The way that started on Saturday night, though, you guys came out shooting the ball well, 9 for your first 13, and then it just kind of fell apart. Was that internal? Was that something that Arizona did to you?
Yeah,
Was it a combo?
They're a very explosive team.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of college games. I watch my brother's team quite a bit. I think Arizona is one of a few teams that, in my opinion, could win the whole thing right now. They're just seeing them live. I mean, they have Ballo that around the basket is so dominant, and then Caleb Love is hitting contested 25-footers. So it's hard to stop everything that they do, but you can't hurt yourself, especially on the road. And we unfortunately had some, untimely turnovers in the first half, and a game that should have been a lot closer at the half ended up being, 18 points. So we were, we dug a big hole for ourselves like the last 6 minutes of that first half.
Yeah, and that can happen against a really super good team. But again, the fact that it's Arizona, of course, it hits the fan base differently, and now you've got to deal with all the residue of that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's painful. It's something I take very personally. After doing this now in my 9th year, I understand what the rivalry feels like, what it means to, both fan bases, and how important that game is. So to not perform the way we necessarily have to, I have to take all the bullets for that. I have to do a better job making sure that we're more competitive in a game against a team like Arizona.
Do you feel like the atmosphere was a little bit different there after what happened in Tucson last year? You guys stole one at the buzzer on a Hail Mary shot.
Well, I know
basically.
how I felt in the handshake line was a lot different. We could start right there,
definitely.
but it was. I wouldn't say they were like out for revenge. I think they're like really good. They've been able to do that to a few teams this year in our league and in some league games, especially at the McHale Center. But I just don't know how much. We had 3 guys returning from that team.
Yeah.
I don't know how many they had, 3 or 4. So there's so much turnover right now, year to year. I'm not sure that there was like a revenge message from the Arizona side.
All right, so when you take a look now, and obviously when you lose that big to a school like Arizona, there's going to be a portion of the fan base that starts screaming about your job. It's nothing you haven't heard before. You're in year 9, and in my vantage point, you've been very close a few different times to cracking through and really kind of getting this program in a different level. So reset all of that for you. How do you feel about where you're at and what this program needs to avoid nights like that in the future?
Yeah, well, I mean, we fought as hard as we could. I mean, I felt like I did. I thought like, the guys, we were overwhelmed in that game. There was, they were doing things that we couldn't stop, and there weren't a lot of answers. And there are sometimes, unfortunately, nights like that. We have to be more consistent. That game reminded me some of how we played against Oregon at Oregon. We were really good, up 5 in the first half, and then ended up losing by 18, and we just, we're like 2 different teams within one game. We have to find more of a level of consistency, and our coaching staff needs to do a better job of trying to extract that from this team. But long term, we have to stay the course. I've gotten this program to the NCAA tournament numerous times, and I'm under contract for another 2 years. We have a very good recruiting class coming in, and I'm actively working on the NIL front, as many of our people at ASU are now, and understand the importance of that. to try and build that up so that we are in the ballpark, with some other programs, from an NIL standpoint.
Bobby Hurley, the head coach of the Arizona State Sun Devils, our guest in studio during Newsmakers Week. Prior to what happened in Tucson on Saturday, two really good performances. The win up in Salt Lake City, they don't lose at home very often, and I thought the game Wednesday against Oregon State, and yeah, they've had a tough year, but that was a complete effort. How do you get your team back to that level, especially after a loss of that size?
Yeah, you get punched in the mouth like that, and you get knocked down. You have to find a way to get back up, and it's been in my nature to have tough moments like that and not give in, and that's why we were in there on Sunday. And that's why we watched the whole game again, and that's why we went on the practice floor, even though guys were physically tired from the Arizona game. I think the message on Sunday too was, hey fellas, in a few weeks we're going to be playing in the Pac-12 tournament, and you're going to play on one day, and then you have to come back and play the next day right away. So, don't complain about the physical nature of practice after a tough loss. Let's figure out how to start thinking about how we're going to perform in the Pac-12 tournament. And, we have 5 games left. We have the Washington schools this week, which both present different challenges. But Washington State's having a heck of a season, is strongly in the mix for the NCAA tournament. So those 2 games are going to be tough. And then obviously Arizona again at home. And then it's the LA schools. So there's 5 games left to see, what could we do to improve our position in the standings with these last 5 games, and are we motivated to have a winning season, and then are we preparing ourselves to get ready for the Pac-12 tournament?
Yeah, all great questions. Now, when you look at Arizona, they've already hired their new athletic director. You guys have not, although there's some speculation that maybe you're waiting for the right candidate. Either way, are you looking forward to having that position filled and maybe having someone to align yourself with to solve some of these issues?
Yes. I mean, and again, I think everybody's timetable is different as it applies to finding the appropriate leadership, for the athletic department. I'm just kind of trying to stay in work mode and, trying to think to the future and how the team and the program is going to look for next season as I'm in the moment this year. So I'm kind of multitasking on those things. But I'm anxious to see, who is going to be prepared to kind of lead the entire athletic department moving forward.
Bobby, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for making time for us today.
And thanks for coming down here, man.
You got it, guys. Good to see you guys face to face.
And again, you look great in the tan, bro. So much different than your days back in Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
You wear Arizona well.
Perfect.
There you go.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Bobby.
Bobby Hurley, the head coach of the Sun Devils, our guest as we continue Newsmakers Week.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.